Welcome. Today's episode of It's All Relational is an exciting member spotlight. We are really lucky to be joined by Dr. Laura Gambrel. Thank you so much for joining us today, Laura.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Trevor.
Yeah. So with these, member spotlights, we really just like to highlight what our members are doing across the state. And it's exciting to see all the ways that people are using systemic therapy. So I'm curious for you, if you could tell us a little bit more about what drew you to systemic therapy in the first place. What led you to want to be an LMFT?
Yeah, well, I started really focused on working with kids. So I got
Hmm.
my master's in
Hmm.
counseling actually and was a play therapist for a while. That
Okay.
was my first my first job and my first passion.
Hmm.
And then the longer I was working with kids, the more I was like, I need to work with the families. I got to get the
Right.
parents in here.
Right.
I
Right.
wanted to I love the work that I was doing, but I really wanted it to be more effective and I
Hmm.
wanted
Right.
not to just focus on fixing this kid, but really
Yes.
the home environment that they were
Hmm.
in. And so
Hmm.
that's what led me to go and get my PhD in marriage and family therapy and
Okay.
start
Yeah.
to shift my focus. I mean, I still,
Right.
loved the work that I was doing with kids, but
Hmm.
started to shift my focus to working with couples. And so
Yeah.
that's my focus
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting,
Mhm.
sometimes, especially in our state where, the LMFT test is challenging and it doesn't always work out for folks to achieve their total license in LMFT. They'll switch to the LMHC
Yes.
route. So you kind of went the other way around,
Yeah.
right? Where you started with being a, LMHC or counselor, and
Yes.
then, you got systemic therapy training.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
after getting my PhD, I worked as a faculty member for 10 years. So I
Oh
was
yeah.
big in the teaching, training,
Hmm.
had a small private practice on the
Right.
side and
Hmm.
would see some kids and some
Right.
couples and was
Right.
doing that and yeah, made a big life change post COVID and
Yeah.
left academia and I was in North
Right.
Carolina. We were talking about that a little bit and
Yeah.
a year and a half ago made the big move all the
Yeah.
way out here and
Right.
trying to figure out that balance now
Totally.
between working with couples and clinical work,
Right.
which I love.
Mhm.
And really, my heart and passion is with training,
Yeah.
teaching, training,
Yeah.
supervision. And so trying to
Right.
figure out what that looks like in a private
Mhm.
practice
Yeah.
kind of place
Right.
to integrate those.
Totally.
Yeah, so I'm only 3 weeks in. I started my
Nice.
private practice at the beginning of the
Yes.
month, so
That's exciting. All right. This is
still
brand
figuring
new.
that out. Yeah.
So, can you tell me a little bit more about your experience with, getting your PhD? Because there's recently AMFT had an article about how, less people are getting advanced degrees in
Mhm,
marriage and family therapy, and that's obviously, an issue for research and furthering the field. So,
mhm,
what was your experience, and how would you recommend it to
mhm.
students that are considering it?
Yeah, well, I went to Virginia Tech,
Nice. Go
and
Hokies, right?
yeah, and was very research focused. So,
Yes.
there's so many different
Hmm.
flavors, I would
Hmm.
say, sort of a PhDs, and then you can get a
Right.
doctorate in
Right.
marriage and family
Hmm.
therapy. You can get PsyDs that
Hmm.
are focused on MFT and
Yeah.
systemic perspectives. So
Right.
they all are kind of different.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
the degree that I got was most preparing me to do teaching, training,
Right.
research, and I
Right.
went into academia, so I followed that
Totally.
route for a
Yeah.
while, and I
Hmm.
loved it. I mean,
Hmm.
I think if you're really passionate about learning and research
Right.
and teaching and training, a
Hmm.
PhD is a great route to take, and if
Yeah.
you're really passionate about, deepening your clinical expertise, maybe leadership,
Hmm.
supervision in
Right.
that realm, then as like a PsyD or a doctorate of
Yeah.
MFT, it's a good way to go. So it's really
Right.
about finding, just like we say with our clients, right? For
Yeah.
students, it's really about finding the best fit.
Right.
And so my
Right.
first question always for people is, what are you hoping to do with this
Hmm.
degree? Like,
Yeah.
and then we find somebody who's
Hmm.
doing the job you want to do,
Yeah.
ask them where they went to school, what they got
Right.
trained in, and
Right.
follow that track as
Yeah.
opposed to sometimes people have this like, oh, I just want to get a PhD for
Yeah.
because
Right.
I want to be a doctor. That's not a
Yeah.
terrible reason, but it's going to be
Hey.
hard to motivate you for four
Yeah, yeah.
years to do
Yes.
all of that work if you're not excited
Yeah,
about the coursework and the
exactly.
dissertation and all the training.
Right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot of time, energy, and resources, obviously, to pull that off, and wanting
Yes.
to make sure you have a why that makes a lot
Right.
of sense for you is important. And it sounds like you did, and
Hmm.
that experience was rich and meaningful. And like you're saying for yourself, training and supervision is still a huge part of what you are wanting to continue to do here.
Yes.
Yeah. So you moved from North Carolina to Washington a year and a half ago, kind of COVID, inspired,
Yeah.
you know, change of life, like so many people experienced, right?
Yeah.
COVID inspired changes. So I'm curious, what's the difference you find working with families in Washington as opposed to families in North Carolina?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because also I lived in Boone. I worked at
Hmm.
Appalachian State in
Yeah.
Western North
Go
Carolina.
Mountaineers. Mountaineers.
Yes, yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
your college
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of
teams,
my
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. And so, uh, things were great. That
Hmm.
like every place, there are things that
Hmm.
I loved
Yeah.
about being there. It's a
Right.
beautiful place, the
Mhm.
outdoors, and
Yeah.
it is also in sort of that
Mhm.
region
Mhm.
of Western North Carolina is one of the most
Right.
medically underserved
Mhm.
areas
Mhm.
in the country.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of poverty in
Right.
Appalachia in that area. And so a lot of the work when I was a professor,
Mhm.
I was supervising interns, right?
Mhm.
So I was
Mhm.
the clinical director of the
Right.
MFT program there.
Right.
And so our interns would be going
Mhm.
out to all of these rural sites
Yeah.
all around
Right.
Western North Carolina. And that, is a very different
Mhm.
feel than what I'm
Yeah.
doing now in private practice, mostly
Right.
like private pay, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Model.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is generations of
Mhm.
poverty,
Right.
substance use, mental
Right.
health concerns,
Yeah. Mhm.
some really tough populations, and
Yeah.
also a lot
Right.
of resiliency and
Mhm.
community and
Mhm.
um like a different kind of fabric
Yeah.
network,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And so obviously there's differences in SES and
Mhm.
race and all these
Right. Right.
dynamics, right? But
Yes.
we were like joking before, like definitely when I was working with couples in North
Mhm.
Carolina, I didn't see as many people fighting about boats.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I do
Yes.
hear that seems like a
Right.
very
Yes.
Washington thing.
Yes.
Couples,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
are we gonna buy a boat? Should we sell our boat? Where
Right.
should
Yeah.
we
What do you
house
do with
our
the
boat?
boat?
Yeah, there's lots of those.
Yes.
Um, but I do find like a lot of people seem I don't know, is this a Pacific Northwest thing? I'd be curious to hear, but a lot of people seem pretty disconnected from community.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Like,
that's a very common,
yeah.
thing. I'm also a transplant from California. A common
Mhm.
thing that people will say, because many people that live here now are transplants, right?
Yes.
That there's this feeling of like this Seattle freeze or this kind of
Mhm.
like lack of community that
Right.
exists here. And that's something that's notable, like you're saying, from your experience working clinically in North Carolina, where there is maybe much more focus on and connection to community. That's a huge part of life there, right? And,
Yes.
and maybe, I mean, we always try to think about how to connect our clients more with people, and
Mhm.
and more notable of a challenge here, right?
Yeah, I think I see more people who
Mhm.
are, um, really on their own.
Yeah. Right.
Like, they're like, "We have these kids and these jobs and these things,
Right.
and we have, like,
Hmm.
nobody
Yeah.
to call on, no help, no
Yeah.
grandparents, no neighbors that
Right.
we're close to," and, that
Hmm.
isolation, I think, is really
Yeah.
hard,
It
especially for
is.
younger families who are
Right.
trying to manage all of
Hmm.
the things and work and, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
so I see that a lot. I also do a lot of work in the transition to parenthood, so I
Hmm.
tend to work
Yeah.
a lot with people who
Right.
are, either trying to get pregnant
Hmm.
or have
Hmm.
young kids,
Right.
and that's just a huge stressor if you don't have
It is.
anybody.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, like, yeah, contrasting this where, in other areas, especially more rural areas, right? families are much closer together. There's much more kind of, familiar support, even if there's not as many financial resources. But,
Yes.
oftentimes in Washington State, you're dealing with families that are, moved here. Their family
Mhm.
lives separately, or a lot. I work with a lot of South
Right.
Asian people, so family lives a long ways away, right?
Mhm.
And that's just part of the challenge that you're
Right.
having to navigate, right? So
Yeah.
so you went from working with kids, focused primarily on working with that population, to work with the family system, and now you're focusing a lot more on couples.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So couples are the thing
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I'm really passionate
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
because I see how the thing I love about working with couples is
Mhm.
that people get to take that relationship
Mhm.
with them. So
Mhm.
we do
Mhm.
this work in the room,
Yeah.
but then
Right.
and we take it with them, and then it
Yes.
can have these ripple effects.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
kids, the grandkids, on their
Right.
extended family.
Mhm.
I had a clients a while back who were talking about how
Mhm.
they went home for the holidays to spend time with their family, and
Yeah.
they were just telling everyone, "Therapy is so great. Everyone should do
Yeah.
therapy," right? And
Yeah.
you see that,
Right.
like,
Yes.
expansion, which is so cool.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm deep in the process of EFT, so I got certified a
Yeah.
couple years ago in EFT, and now
Wonderful.
I'm
Yeah.
training to be an EFT supervisor, and
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I'm yeah, I think it took me a long time to feel comfortable and confident
Mhm.
working with high
Sure.
conflict. It's
Right.
not, like, it's
Yeah.
not my thing from my family, so
Yeah.
my
Right.
family does not do conflict, and
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
was a lot more comfortable when I
Yeah.
started out working with an individual child doing play therapy
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
talking to their
Right.
family or meeting with a
Yeah.
couple, and,
Mhm. Mhm.
so I've done a lot of work to be able to, like,
Right.
be present and be there
Yeah.
in the midst of
Mhm.
conflict,
Mhm.
and I think that's a big part of what led
Mhm.
me to be so passionate about therapist training,
Totally. Right.
because there's just such a big need for
Right.
competent and skilled couples therapists.
Mhm.
In
Mhm.
MFT, we already have that foundation of systemic
Right.
thinking,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
yet a lot of MFTs don't have a ton of experience or
Right.
specialized training,
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
MFTs in couples
Right.
therapy, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm really
Mhm.
passionate about working with,
Yeah.
therapists in that place, also
Right.
because there's such a high burnout rate. Working
Mhm.
with couples is so hard. It
It
can be
is.
really
Yeah.
taxing on our nervous systems, it's
Right.
really intense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, wanting to make sure that therapists are
Mhm.
getting the support that they need to keep doing this hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. So you are, kind of taking this now into your own business, right?
Mhm.
So tell us more about what led you to launching your business, and what you're hoping to accomplish specifically by doing this work under that umbrella.
Yeah, well, I've worked in these different places. I'm
Mhm.
transitioning from
Yeah.
being a
Right.
clinical director at a group practice, which I also loved and was a
Mhm.
hard decision to
Right.
leave, because I had a great team and lots of
Yeah.
people I was working with.
Mhm.
And there's always that edge, I think, that can be hard about group
Mhm.
practice in
Mhm.
terms of the payment models,
Yeah.
the
Right.
the level of just like expectations of
Mhm.
therapists to keep
Yeah.
seeing more and more clients, which
Right.
makes sense that the business needs that.
Yes.
Right, and I
Right.
can understand that. I don't think there's a lot of group practice owners out there who are just raking in bucks.
Right.
It has,
Right.
we're all underpaid in
Right.
this field.
Right.
Insurance companies are
Yes.
low, and payments and all that kind of stuff. So there's a tension there,
Yes.
right? But what I'm hoping for in this transition is that I will be able to offer more
Mhm.
comprehensive
Right.
services to more people to
Right.
help, like, really give
Mhm. Mhm.
spread more of that, like, training and
Right. Right.
supervision. And so I have a couple
Totally.
consults that I'm starting. I'm
Nice.
seeing more supervisees, but
Mhm.
really being
Mhm.
able to build some
Right.
community for the people who are out there, who now
Yeah.
me too included, who are
Right.
out there in their
Yes.
own private practices, who are like,
Yeah.
wanna connect with other MFTs, and I
Right.
wanna, like,
Right.
be in, not that I only work with MFTs, but, like, there's
Yeah.
a hunger for that, to work
Right.
with
Yeah.
supervisors who are trained systemically, who
Mhm.
really are specializing in couples, and so
Right.
that's fun. I like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the name of your business?
It's relational mindfulness, therapy and
Nice.
consultation,
Nice.
and that's really at the cornerstone
Mhm.
of my work, is
Yeah.
that integration of
Mhm.
experiential, somatic,
Right.
mindfulness-based work,
Right.
which I think, yeah, is also, the umbrella of
Yeah.
experiential work is where EFT sits, but I
Yeah.
tend to take a more
Right.
kind of somatic,
Mhm.
um, flavor, I guess,
Yeah.
to EFT.
Yeah, right. And I
Yeah.
love what you're doing here where you're like we were talking about earlier, like social isolation that can happen, you
Mhm.
know, for our clients and for people here can also happen for us, obviously, as clinicians.
Yeah.
So, and as business people. And so being able to connect
Mhm.
with other folks, in the field, that's a huge part, it sounds like, of what you're hoping to do with relational mindfulness.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you're naming that explicitly, because a lot of my work
Mhm.
is with therapists, honestly,
Yeah.
both in supervision and as
Right.
clients.
Right.
Almost all of the couples that I see, and
Mhm.
individuals, one
Mhm.
member of the couple is a healthcare provider, a lot of
Yeah.
them are
Right.
therapists.
Right.
This work is hard.
It is.
It's
Yeah,
taxing.
it is.
Um And when we can come together in community, it
Mhm.
just helps so much. And we
Mhm.
all know this rationally
Yes.
and logically,
Right,
and we
right.
preach it to our
Yes.
clients. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's, yeah, I would say it's
Mhm.
one of my greatest joys and honors in my
Yeah.
work, to be able to sit in a space and help
Right,
build that community and
right.
connection amongst other therapists. So they're
Mhm.
not just over here thinking like, oh my God, I suck. I'm the
Yeah.
only one who's
Right,
struggling in this
right.
way.
Yeah.
But everybody feels that way. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
I feel that way
Right,
some days, right? I
right.
leave, and
Yes.
I've been doing this for 20 years, but
Yeah,
I leave some sessions and think, man, well, I
yeah.
chose the wrong
Right.
field. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
always talk about with my supervisees, the training
Mhm,
that I did with Sue Johnson, where she
mhm.
talked about this one couple that she was working with was so
Yeah.
difficult, and she would leave at the end of the day and be like, I should have been a dentist.
Yes,
Dentist seems
yes.
like a good profession.
Yeah,
And so we
yeah.
joke about those, like, dentist days
Right,
when we're all
right.
like, "Why did I do
Yes.
this to myself? Why
Why am
did
I
I?"
pulling my own teeth out
Yes,
instead of,
exactly,
someone else's?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
so if we're not in community and we're not
Mhm.
talking about that, that can
Right.
so easily become internalized, and we
Yeah.
think like, "Oh, everyone else out there seems
Right,
like they're so great and they have it all
right.
together, and I'm the only one." It's just
Yeah,
not true.
yeah, yeah. Now, so many it's interesting as you've kind of worked in a lot of different environments
Mhm,
that, people in our field work in, right? Community mental health, group practice, academia, and now
mhm,
you're, doing the solo private practice.
mhm,
And I think a lot of times there's people that are interested in solo practice for the same reasons you are, right?
mhm,
Dealing with a little bit less, relational tension with supervisees and, kind of more role clarity. All those things are
mhm.
really attractive, obviously, for folks.
Yeah.
But a lot of challenges, barriers people run into when they think about starting
Mhm.
their own business. So,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what your experience has been so far, how you're trying to, you know, as you've been doing the kind of administrative startup things with getting your
Mhm,
business off the ground, any barriers you've run into, any advice you have for other people that are maybe wanting to do
mhm.
similar things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pain.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I mean, and I've talked to everybody about this. It's like, I had somebody say, and I feel like it's so true. It's like the least fun scavenger hunt or something. It's like this process of, or I think of like an escape room, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I
Right.
gotta set up my credit card billing system. Okay, first I
Yes.
gotta like sign up with this
Right.
app, and how
Hmm.
much is that gonna cost, and set that up, and then I have to make sure it's linked to my bank account, and then I have to set that up in my EHR and make sure
Right.
they're all right.
Right.
Like, it is
Yeah.
not fun. It's a
Right.
lot of work.
Mhm.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and then once it's all set up, for the most part, it goes pretty smoothly, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm tinkering with these things, or I
Sure.
realize like, oh, I
Right.
didn't set up my voicemail correctly, and clients are trying to call, right? There's always like
Right.
these things.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think once you get over kind of like that
Yeah.
mental block of like,
Right.
this is going to be
Mhm.
really hard. And yeah, it's going to be really
Right.
hard.
Right. Right.
And then it's going to be okay. So like,
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
the thing that helped me, which I encourage everybody to do
Mhm.
is everybody like was that I knew who was in private
Mhm.
practice was so nice and helpful.
Yeah.
Anytime I
Yeah.
had questions or
Right.
I was
Right.
struggling with something,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
think, and then I hope to be able to pay that forward to other
Totally.
people.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
I think sometimes people are afraid
Right.
to ask other people
Mhm.
and people
Yeah.
were so
Yeah.
willing to like
Right.
give me advice and help me and give me
Yeah.
their
Mhm.
referral code to whatever
Mhm.
thing or
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so um I just yeah, felt so grateful
Yeah.
that I already
Right.
had some of those connections, but also, like, leaning on them, which
Mhm.
is hard for me
Mhm.
and hard for some therapists
Yes.
to ask for
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
that's what really helped me, was
Right.
talking to other people who
Right.
had done it and
Yeah.
who could say, "I know it's hard, I know it
Mhm. Mhm.
sounds really daunting, and
Right.
then it's gonna be fine, and you're
Right.
gonna be fine, and it's gonna be great."
There's a
And
lot of this kind of upfront administrative work to kind of get things
yes.
going that I think can be, I mean, I think that's such a huge, like, amorphous barrier for people,
Yes.
to get into it, right?
Right. Yeah. And if you can connect with people who can mentor
Mhm.
you, who can talk you through it,
Right.
who can help
Mhm.
you, it's all doable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of
Absolutely.
work, but you just do the
Right.
work and then it's
Yeah.
there and then,
Yeah.
you're on the
Right.
other side. And
Right.
so, I'm only 3 weeks in, so there's
Mhm.
probably a whole other
Yeah.
conversation to have about
Yes.
the marketing and the ongoing
Totally. Yeah.
process. But
Yes.
in terms of the setup, and in terms of, like, my work-life balance
Mhm.
now, it's
Mhm.
way better
Yeah.
than
Right.
it was, and so
Right.
that that makes me feel settled
Mhm.
and making a right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
Mhm.
getting further into the kind of nuts and bolts of this, so what like business model did you pick? You doing a sole proprietorship? You doing like a PLLC
I
or
have a
how?
PLLC,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
it's just me, and when I have supervisees, they
mhm.
just pay me by the hour for
Right,
supervision.
right.
I'm not in network with any insurance, so I'm
Mhm,
private pay, do
mhm,
super
mhm.
bills,
Right.
and I think there's all these complex models out there about like
Yes.
supervisory billing and the
Right.
group practices,
Right.
1099
Yeah.
contractors, like all of these
Right.
different
Right.
things that
Mhm,
people in different
mhm.
places in their career
Yeah.
do. But for me, just like
Mhm.
picking the simplest model, I don't plan
Yeah.
to have employees or
Right.
do
Right.
any of that.
Right.
But finding, like you said, like a
Mhm.
way to be able to support supervisees and do training without it
Right.
also being tied to, like, an employment
Right.
model
Right.
where then it gets into gatekeeping and all
Totally.
these other things
Mhm,
that
mhm.
honestly just not my favorite thing. I don't
Yeah.
wanna do insurance compliance. I don't wanna, like,
Yeah.
that's not I don't know that anyone's passionate about it.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
are out there, but, like,
Yes.
that's not how I wanna spend my time. It's, like,
Right.
making sure people are compliant about whatever,
Right.
and it's important and it needs to happen.
Yes.
And there are a lot of reasons why, we need
Mhm,
insurance for accessibility
mhm.
and all that stuff,
Right.
and, like, it is such a pain.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very true.
So
But yeah, so that the PLC gives you the flexibility and you kind of, liability protection, right?
yes.
From a business perspective that makes the
Mhm.
most sense for what you're trying to do.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, it's something that like you're saying that the thing that helps the most is being able to talk to other people that have done it or have had experience
Mhm.
and get walked through it. And because of the way we are as therapists, we're all very, willing and ready to help, right? As if kind of called upon. So I think
Mhm.
that's the hope. And I think hopefully, as we move forward here with the WAMP, we're gonna be trying to provide more resources like this to help folks
Mhm.
because it is such a valuable way to use your degree and you use your skills to be able to work with clients, and it can feel so inaccessible to people, especially
Mhm.
people with kind of anxiety about money or scarcity mindsets around money. It totally can appreciate how scary it
Yeah.
sounds, right? Starting a business,
Mhm.
right? But like we're talking about, you know, talking to people, leaning on folks, and then, kind of making the choices that make the most sense for you,
Yeah.
lead to it being, an accessible option. So that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yes. Yeah, and I think what you mentioned is really important about the role of an organization like WAMP to bring
Mhm.
together people who have
Yeah.
expertise, who
Right.
you can
Right.
mentor, to just be,
Mhm.
again, in community with other people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody's so nice and kind
Mhm.
and, like,
Mhm.
wants to be helpful and wants
Yeah.
to, like,
Right.
and so I think, yeah, there can be hesitancy to ask for
Mhm.
help,
Mhm.
but when we, like, through an organization can
Right.
put out, like, you were kinda saying, like, putting out more,
Mhm.
resources or
Yeah.
training,
Right.
education about
Mhm.
here's things you can do to set up your
Yes.
business, or here's
Right.
right, then
Yeah.
it does remove some of,
Mhm.
I think, a lot of the mental block, and it was for me
Yeah.
too. The
Right.
mental block
Right.
was like,
Mhm.
"I don't know how to do that."
Yeah.
And
Right.
then it's just
Right.
like, "Well," and it's like, "Okay, well, I
Yeah.
can learn how to do that. I
Yeah.
can talk to people,
Yeah.
I can figure it out."
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think WAMP is a great,
Yeah.
like, venue to bring people together and
Totally.
help in that learning.
Especially because all of the, kind of specificities of these things are state, focused, right? It's different to do it in North
Yes,
Carolina than it would be here in
totally.
Washington State. And so, and it's a thing, it always, boggles my mind that so many folks use this degree to start their own business and practice, but there's no education about that, in our process, right?
Yeah.
It would be, a great thing moving forward for there to be more focus on that. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, to do even CEUs about it, right? Because
Right.
of the learning objectives,
Yes.
not fitting neatly into what we're required to learn. But it's a good thing to think more about. So
Mhm,
I'm excited about so relational mindfulness
mhm.
is the business. Now, are you primarily virtual, primarily in person, a little bit of both?
I do both. So
Mhm.
I'm based in Bellingham, so I
Okay.
do in-person supervision
Mhm.
and, a consultation group here, but I
Great.
also have a virtual like
Mhm.
couples therapy focused consultation group.
Awesome.
And yeah, I have plenty of supervisees who are virtual and people
Great.
who reach out. I tend
Mhm.
to, like, get people who reach out for, like, I have this one very specific complex
Yes.
overwhelming
Yes.
case. I'm like, great, bring it. Let's
That's
talk
awesome.
about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been doing more trainings that
Mhm.
are like nationwide, some of them virtual. I have one
Great.
coming up. I don't know if you can post a link or something,
Mhm.
but a free training through the Kansas City EFT
Cool.
community virtually
Nice.
next month. So those kinds of uh events I'm trying
Mhm.
to do more of. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And,
Hmm.
are you working with people like you're saying there are people that come to you case by case, but you're also helping people like with get to licensure
Hmm.
as well?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Hmm.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's
very
interesting because, I'm sort of, like, uniquely situated since I taught for so long.
Mhm.
I'll
Mhm.
have, like, former students. I'm still licensed in North Carolina and
Right.
Colorado, so I
Right.
have some, like, former students that I'm still
Mhm.
working with virtually
Yeah.
in other states,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
people who will just reach out and be like, "I
Mhm.
need help."
Yes.
And I'm like,
Yes.
"Great, I'm here. I love to help." Like,
That's
teaching is my
awesome.
passion, so
Yes.
it's always fun for me to connect about
Yeah.
EFT and couples and all those things.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, something I like to think about here, and we talk about these kind of member spotlights, and you look at your journey, right? As a therapist so far, 20 years
Mhm.
in the field. What would you like to tell yourself at the beginning of your process
Mm.
now with what you know?
Oh. I didn't prep for that question. I don't know. Let me think. What would I like to tell myself? Um, I think maybe the things that I tell other people
Mhm,
now
mhm.
as supervisees,
Yes.
um, which is it's enough to be yourself.
Mhm, mhm.
I
Yeah.
think when I was like, I don't know. I mean, I was young. I was like 23, 24
Yeah. Right.
when I
Mhm.
graduated from my
Yeah.
master's degree.
Yeah.
And had this idea, which I think a lot of us
Mhm,
do. And sometimes
mhm.
I still fight about what it means to be a therapist and
Right. Right.
performing as a
Mhm.
therapist, right?
Yeah.
Performing the role of
Right.
therapist. Um, and was really hard on myself and very self-critical when I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. And I
Right.
think some of that just naturally happens with
Mhm.
time and age and
Yeah.
experience, that I'm
Mhm,
like, "Oh, I don't have to
mhm.
do that anymore." And
Yeah.
sometimes clients like it, sometimes they don't. I'm not a
Right.
fit for everybody. I can kind of,
Totally.
like, hold that more
Mhm.
loosely
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
feeling like it
Yeah.
attacks my sense of, like, well-being or
Right.
who I
Right.
am, and
Yeah.
so that's always what I'm hoping to, like, transmit
Yeah.
to my supervisees
Yeah.
is, like, "You can be yourself. It's not
Yeah.
gonna look like me, it's not gonna look like Sue
Right.
Johnson, it's not gonna look like
Right.
Mr. Professor or
Yes.
trainer or" but
Yes.
that's what your clients need is
Yeah.
your
Mhm.
humanity,
Right.
your
Right.
congruence, your
Mhm.
authenticity.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's enough to
Mhm.
be yourself. That's a wonderful,
Yeah. Mhm.
message. Well,
Yeah.
on that note, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Gambrel. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Relationalmindfulness.org, I believe, is your website.
Yeah, it's relational-mindfulness.org.
.org. Okay,
So, yeah,
and we'll
feel
have a
free
link
to
to it here,
yeah.
and then people can reach out to you there. You're in person in
Mhm.
Bellingham and virtual across the state and
Yes.
Colorado and North Carolina for our good
Mhm.
friends there.
Yes.
So thank you so much. We look forward to working with you more here in the future.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is so fun.
All right.